At least 8 Russian officers, including 3 lieutenant colonels, were killed and 22 other military personnel were injured in a Ukrainian long-range missile attack on Lgov city in Russia's border Kursk region in late December, Ukrainian media reported on Friday. The Ukrainian Armed Forces attacked with British Franco Storm Shadow long-range missiles the position of Russia's 76th Guards Air Assault Division in Lgov on December 30th. According to research by Mediazona news outlet, at least 3 lieutenant colonels were killed during the attack. Medizone revealed, citing an obituary, that a total of 8 officers were killed during the strike, while 22 military personnel were injured. Mediazona identified the killed lieutenant colonels as Valery Tereshchenko, who held the position of Chief of Communications in the 76th Airborne Division, Pavel Maletsky, the commander of the 656th Separate Engineer Battalion, and Alexey Seliverstov, who served as Chief of the Chemical, Radiation and Biological Service Division Protection. Among the killed personnel is Major Ali Tsurov. It should be noted that in November last year, Biden administration authorized Ukraine's use of its long-range weapons such as ATACMS inside Russian territory. The same month, Kiev used a British French Storm Shadow missile against targets in Russia.
There are active discussions about how NATO nations might deploy troops to assist with a demilitarized zone if one became part of any peace deal and they were requested. This has been reported by CNN with a reference to a European defense official. Perhaps the presence of some NATO troops along Ukraine's front lines could restrain the Kremlin from trying to advance slowly, stated in the material. Alexander Hug, who ran the OSCE monitoring mission on the ground that oversaw the ceasefire of 2014-15, told CNN that no ceasefire is perfect. Violations are bound to occur. The key question is what the agreement foresees in terms of sanctions and remedial action. He said that if either side got away with it, you have an open invitation for more of the same. Kaja Kallas, the former Estonian Prime Minister and now the EU's High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, told CNN that from Rome, she believed Ukraine could still win with the right aid. The stakes for European security are extraordinarily high, she said. The scale of hybrid attacks in Europe have already surged, and Ukraine's defeat would cost us far more than aid. Putin has shown a total disregard for international law and cannot be trusted. Without credible security guarantees, any ceasefire agreement is likely to fail. Russia will simply rearm and re-attack. A bad peace deal will only lead to more war, just as it did before, she said. We must learn from the past and ensure any future agreement is sustainable, she added. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron are considering the idea of sending British and French soldiers to Ukraine as a peacekeeping mission following a potential agreement to end the war, the Telegraph reports, citing its own sources. The French president supports this approach and has already discussed it with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenski and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. While Downing Street and the Élysée Palace have not denied the subject was raised during a meeting in Kherson last week, details of the talks remain confidential, one British government source said. There are issues about what we can support, what we would like to support, and the broader question of what kind of threat those troops might be under and whether that is an escalation. The proposal comes as European leaders debate whether to support Ukraine amid pressure from Donald Trump, who is pushing for a peace deal between Kiev and Moscow. Various scenarios are being considered in Washington, London, and Paris. One idea is to deploy Western troops along the border between Ukraine and Russia to create a demilitarized buffer zone. The French president suggested that European countries play a key role in this process. During a conversation with Volodymyr Zelensky, he stressed, "We agreed to work closely with key allies to achieve peace and develop effective security guarantees." However, in the UK, no final decision has been made yet. British officials warn, "We're a little ahead of ourselves. We're not there yet." Any deployment of troops could provoke a strong reaction from Russia and increase the burden on the UK defence budget. It could also be seen as an escalation of the conflict, something NATO governments are keen to avoid. Ukrainian troops blew up one of the shafts of a strategically important coal mine near Pokrovsk so that the Russians could not use it to secretly transport troops to the rear of Ukrainian defenders, the New York Times reports. As miners told journalists, due to constant Russian shelling, which cost the lives of some mine workers, the entrance to shaft number 3 has become too dangerous. It is located closest to the front in the village of Pechanoy. Therefore, in early December, miners began to be lowered into the mine through a different shaft, which is why the descent lasted much longer, about 2 hours. To return back, the miners rode on conveyor belts that transported freshly mined coal. The shelling sometimes caused the power and ventilation systems to fail, forcing miners to evacuate. However, keeping the mine open for as long as possible was critical to the Ukrainian economy, as it was the mine that supplied Ukrainian steelmakers with the required grade of coal. However, by mid-December, Russian troops had become within 1.5 kilometers of entrance number 3. If the occupiers had managed to capture it, they could have used these tunnels to bypass Ukrainian positions. To prevent this from happening, the miners, together with the military, planted explosives under the shaft and detonated them around December the 20th. According to an unnamed representative of the company that owns the mine, explosives were also planted in 2 other mines at the enterprise that remain under Ukrainian control today. However, it is not known whether they have already been detonated. As reported, the occupiers are planning to cut off ground supply routes to Pokrovsk and Mirnograd in the Donetsk region in order to force Ukrainian troops to retreat from these cities. This is how the American Institute for the Study of War assesses the Russian strategy. The chairman of the Council of Reserves of the Ground Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Ivan Tymochko, believes that the Russian occupiers currently lack the strength to conduct a large-scale encirclement of Pokrovsk on a wide front from the flanks. However, he admits that the situation is very serious.
The fire that broke out after Ukrainian drones struck the Kristall oil base in Engels, Saratov region, Russia, on January 14 is still ongoing. Footage of the fire has been shared on Telegram channels. Saratov region Governor Roman Busargin confirmed the information. He said that the consequences of the latest strike on the base have not been eliminated, but the fire area has decreased slightly. It should be noted that the oil base was hit twice by Ukrainian drones in January. The fire that broke out after the first attack on January 8 lasted for 5 days and caused the death of 2 firefighters.
Видал, ветерочек чуть-чуть переменился, сразу ёбнул. Все ломанулись, я, честно говоря, думал, блядь, дрон летит еще надо. Да, блядь. Ебать, там машина, смотри, сгорит нахуй. Пожарка, блядь. Выезжай, 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 Коть.